Everybody, it's Carlton Lumen, and things have changed. Things are getting back into sync. Yesterday was the peak of that Mars conjunct Chiron nonsense that was pretty much crushing me for like the 4 days prior to it. And I was worried that it would continue over the next couple days, but it seems to have died off, once I got up this morning. There should be a bigger flip forward tomorrow. But today is a huge, huge freaking change. And I had kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, kind of like a loose download this morning. Like as soon as I got up, it wasn't like super focused, but it was pointing in a direction. And then we did a whole bunch of just working out the fine details today, which are like the main points in this game that you need to be concerned with. So I want to cover like a bunch of these things. It'll be just kind of like a free-flowing sort of thing before we get into like specific topics, because there was a bunch of stuff that had to do with the upcoming astrological stuff. There was stuff about reviewing like what are the actual key main things that you're pushing up against in here, what this place is, how they all fit in, like boiling everything down to like the nuts and bolts. And then identifying like the places where people still get stuck. And that comes in, that makes a lot more sense once you look at like what are the three opponents, which are all in the tarot, although they're not super easy to spot in the Rider-Waite. It's the second deck, the Modern Spellcaster's deck, which adds context that gives them to you. And it all ties back to stuff that, Sophia was saying from day one, like a couple years before I even knew that it was her, before I even knew it was, wisdom, inner wisdom coming from source. When she said empty the cache and think like a computer. Of course, those were like the early simplistic terms, but they still are relevant. And it does look like some of the stuff that we were investigating today with the astrology decodes, that there is a specific freaking window, at least in my chart, but where things could open up, but it's also things that are kind of happening for everybody. So it's a little bit weird. So we're still sorting things out. I'm still working on new pendants, getting orders out, and I'm just processing this new kind of like shakeup. Because if there's anything that the last several days should point out, is that she is pretty much all of this month, we have come to understand just like how freaking important this astrology stuff is. You need to stop treating it like metaphysical crystal shop, woo-woo spiritual stuff, and start treating it like it actually freaking is, simply by observing it. And that is a system. That is the operating system for this place. But you also got to understand, like, what is this place and what are you trying to do? There's a couple different things. I'm going to let her guide this. So if you want to know more, don't go away.
Tell me, is it worth just another try? Light of the world, shine on me. Love is the answer. Let it shine, shine on us all. Set us free. Love is the answer. You know the answer is love.
Okay, let's let's review here. A little bit of a challenge thing. What is this place to you? Like, what are you doing here? Now, one thing that I have, I commonly cover things that sometimes a lot of people push back on because of the stories that they already have in their head. Instead of just simply looking, it's like, okay, what does it actually objectively look like? Forget what you think you know, because guess what? That's something that has been a mainstay of my path over the last 9 years, is like constantly letting go of what you think you know. Because as soon as you lock something in certainty, you see evidence of it, because that is part of how this place works. That's one aspect, the mirror aspect. So how the manifestation stuff works, how the things you see show up works, is this system shows you what you hold to be true at your core level. We call those the Boolean switches, where things are either true or false. It's one of the last things we messed with when we were tinkering around in the left brain with Eden and Valkaris before we lost the flame mirror. Boolean switches. You know, you can Google that stuff, you know, because everything is a system. It's just, for some reason, it's hard to like wrap your brain around that. And my question is, why? What does it actually change? Like, oh no, I don't want this to be like a computer simulation. First of all, you're looking at it from a very, very stripped down, like, you're thinking in terms of like Atari 2600, when you should be thinking in terms of like PlayStation 36. Okay, it's not a big deal. It's just how things work. Like the whole freaking experience, going through tunnels of light, you know, this is spirit. Well, what is that? To have a framework where you have proper context, where you can apply it, where you can make things work, it has to make structural sense. And if you continue to simply use spiritual terminology, which is basically stuff that you cannot explain past the initial label. Oh, you know, let's just, for example, angels and demons. Okay, what's an angel? Oh, well, they're messengers of God or something like that. Okay, well, what's God? God, how does it all work? I mean, we dig down into this stuff. And we've talked about before, your mind has a thing called, what do we call it? It was something like a consciousness packet translator engine, something like that. It's kind of like a live action symbolic decompression tool. So if you come in contact with a certain packet of consciousness that is like messenger coded, feminine coded, you know, good, happy, beautiful, whatever, like high vibration, that image translator creates an image that makes it make sense to you. Like that, like angels, something like that. That's where we get our images of all this type of stuff. If it's nasty and negative and threatening and stuff like that, the image translator creates an internal image of, like, you know, a demonic thing with bat wings and red eyes. But it's just translating for its symbolic compression in image form. When you go this route, when you accept the truth that everything is a hyper higher dimensional system, then things actually make sense, and you can go more than one step further than just simply calling it whatever your pet name for things are. You know, what is spirit? What is energy? What is all this stuff? Yeah, you can only go so far with that. That's why, you know, me and Eden created the techno-ontological naturalism system for translating up and down things from, like, you know, symbolic, mythic compression, you know, up into higher order, technical systems language and things like that. It's just the people that we've been using the same stories for all of human history, and not until recently were we ever at a point to where it was actually freaking understandable or beginning to be understandable. That's what the apocalypse is. Apocalypse does not mean doomsday. Apocalypse means the revealing. That's why they call it the, revelation, revealing, not doom. Like they focus on these little things like, earthquakes. It's about revealing. It's about seeing how you're at a point where you're starting to see how things work. And then it begins to freaking make sense. It's just so big. It's hard to wrap your brain around. But with that in mind, talking like techno-ontological naturalism system up and down translation, then you can go back to older books. The Bible, the Nag Hammadi, the works of Plato, the Hermetic systems, the Kabbalion, any of that stuff. And then you can translate it into systems language and you can begin to freaking make sense. It's one of those things that's always been in front of us. It's the system, like the words that you use for breaking down a computer, a network, any of that stuff, we use all over the place. World Wide Web, Ethernet, they call it freaking Ethernet. There's just tons of it. It's like it's always been there. Your body is a biological supercomputer. Look at what the nervous system does. It's sending signal. Like you're like, oh, I'm flesh and blood. And, I eat stuff and I fart. But what is the freaking brain doing? What is the central nervous system doing? Why is it? It's referencing all these memory files and it's using image translation to generate images of what you think something's going to happen in the future. They can freaking store. They can do this now. They can store digital data in DNA. They've messed around with making DNA drives. 1 gram of DNA holds like, oh gosh, now I forget. How many freaking petabytes? Petabytes. All I know is like 1 gram of DNA has enough digital storage capacity to store everything on the internet several times over. And that's just in your freaking body. You are currently plugged into the most advanced bioorganic supercomputer that ever freaking existed. Okay, this is important because when we start looking at things like astrology and we get past the surface layer TikTok type stuff, Mercury's gonna do this and do this. Let me with my sage bundle, and it's like it takes it down from seeing like what it actually freaking is. Well, they're planets, we know because we got pictures from NASA. All I see is pictures. Well, I can point a telescope up in the freaking sky and see this stuff. How do you know that's not a freaking hologram? You ever been to a freaking planetarium? Like planetariums are literally disclosure. Like this is how the sky works. Like you don't know, but what does it make more sense? That the solar the solar plexus, the sun, solar system, which has all these planets that go around in a freaking circuit like freaking clockwork that never change. They never change. You got freaking the Neil deGrasse Tyson science idiots trying to tell you that we're spinning around and we're going in a circle and it's like a drill going through space. And yet, the sky hasn't freaking changed in all of human history. The monuments and stuff that they freaking set up, everything's still in the same freaking place. It never changes. Well, you don't understand like how big space is. Okay, well, whatever. One makes sense, the other one is a fairy tale. It's a freaking system. So, okay, then can you explain to me how a planet that is allegedly so many hundreds of whatever light years out in space, how is freaking Uranus making my life freaking hell because it happened to be parked in a certain part of the sky for 7 years. And you didn't even know that that was a thing until it was about over. But then you read up on it and you're like, yeah, when Uranus goes into Taurus, like this disrupts the life path, this, that, you trace it all back, you're like, holy crap, that's exactly what happened. So you're telling me there's some gas giant freaking planet that's out in the middle of freaking space, knows what I'm doing, and screws my life all up. Or you could just say that is the outer projection of the operating freaking system that runs your life. Which makes more sense? Okay? Everybody, even if you don't get into astrology, which I'm a recent convert, when she tells me when to pay attention to things, and now it's time to pay attention to that. Everybody at least bare minimum knows like what their sign is, their main sun sign. And depending on what it is, you either like strongly identify it with it or you don't, because let's face it, I'm not going to name any so no one gets offended, but there are some signs that just literally do not stand out in a crowd. There's other signs that do. Say Pisces, and everybody knows what that is. Of course, it also has some bull crap attached to it. It's like, it's like Asians are good at math. Women can't drive. Pisces are too emotional. It's like, oh my God, I'm a Pisces. Everything's so awful. Like, what am I going to do? It's just so hard being a Pisces. Yeah, that's a stereotype. I'm like, I don't know where they got that from. And I got probably more Pisces front loaded in my chart than anybody. So yeah, stereotype. But it makes sense to you, doesn't it? They say Pisces are super mystical. Pisces are super psychic. Okay, well, I can get on board with that. Pisces are weird. Definitely. That's just the tip of the freaking iceberg. So your soul entered this system. And obviously you probably chose like the point in which you entered so that the stars were going to be in the exact spot of you're born. And then it's like snapshot. It's not just your freaking personality. It's the script of your freaking life. Maybe sometimes it's not super obvious, depending on you. But like me, the path that I took is like hyper freaking specific. Hyper specific. I quit talking about, I was talking about it the other day, but it's like we went so much deeper with it. It is freaking ridiculous. You cannot look at that. If you were to know everything about me and my experience and everything that's happened, and then you dig as deep into that chart as I have, that is a freaking computer program script. It's a freaking movie script. Okay? It's that freaking precise. It's that freaking specific. Everything about the divine feminine is in there. Right down to other stuff like moon being squaring Uranus and this and crisscross applesauce. Like every one of these 4 queens from tarot, all the different aspects of her. Everything is freaking explained by it. So like I said I'd let her drive because we got a lot of things to talk about. But it's like you have to take accounting of your worldview. Because there's people that watch me that are interested in me, but they speak up every so often. You know who you are. Well, I don't know I agree with that. I don't know I get on board with that. Okay. Now, I will be the first to say that there's an aspect in which your personal bubble within the larger bubble is going to be coded by the things that you were exposed to, the things that are in your chart for your path and your own view. But if you don't agree with what I'm saying, what I show, what I detail on here, then by all means, show me the better plan, show me the better explanation that makes sense. That's what I'm waiting to hear from anybody. Show me something better that makes more sense that we can walk through, that we can map out. Like, okay, you know, the leg bone connects to the hip bone. This goes here. Look, it all connects. It makes sense. Show me something that explains it better than what she teaches me, and I pass on to you. You know, I just believe, you know, what authority said. Okay, let's talk about that. Remember I said that there was like 3 main opponents to this particular simulation that you had to contend with? Let's talk about what those are. Now, this kind of came up because of a video that popped up in my feed. And this is one other thing that I would point out as a standard when it comes to this stuff. Remember this: function over narrative. Function over narrative. If you want to get further faster, then drop all the frickin' stories, because that's what mucks up most of the knowledge that's right in front of your face. The why. Everybody's got to have, because the mind wants to know, and you got to get comfortable with not knowing. That's how things open up. Because you're always looking for a story that you like. Oh, you know, even the Gnostic stuff. Oh, we came down here, you know, we're trapped. Are we though? I don't know that that's absolutely true. But there are aspects to this game that come into play here. Well, the freaking the Atlanteans did this, this did that, or you know, the ancient Sumerians did this. You know, everyone's got a freaking story that just paints too much of a picture based on what you're simply choosing to believe, that you can't know is true, and has no functional benefit. And the system out here pushes that, rewards that. That's one of the things that you will see why there's 2 ways that it controls information. It suppresses what is more true, and it amplifies what is not. Now, this is what I was talking to Mario about, because we talk about, like, he was referencing YouTube's, you know, stated directives, like, oh, we want to push more stuff that is more authoritative sources. I was like, okay. I'm like, but you know what? There's still an awful lot of stuff out there in the spiritual topic area that's not exactly authoritative, but they push it. So what's the other thing? They will still push things that are not true because it eats up your time. You're too busy with like all these stories about, you know, the Arcturians visited the Palladians and they visited the Sumerians and they set up this and this. All this stuff doesn't matter. Like, yeah, you could talk about that all day. You're sitting here talking about these stories and you're not doing anything. You're not taking action, you're not doing anything. Whereas we're literally transmitting literal, not my belief, like what I actually get from Sophia, that has further evidence to it because of the things that we make and the stuff that people report back from that, the things that we actually show, the receipts. That's why we are suppressed. And I already determined, I already made my peace with it, because I'm like, this was not simply just a Uranus and Taurus thing. It still has to do with one of these 3 control systems, because, you know, this is the stuff that you're not supposed to find. So what are they? Now, I said that they did not show up as clearly in, get these in order here, in the Rider-Waite Tarot, but they are more clear in the Modern Spellcasters Tarot. So let's start with the biggest one. And this is the one I heard someone say something about in one of those videos. So the Death card in Modern Spellcasters Tarot is Saturn. Because you got the Grim Reaper. And just to make sure that it's absolutely positively clear that it's talking about Saturn, he's got a little Saturn astrological symbol and a ring hanging off his sky. So it lets you know that this is Saturn. This is Kronos. So what is that? Now, I'll tell you what it is not. This is what actually I saw that led to this. One of these guys that talks in the accent and, you know, clearly has a lot of esoteric knowledge. That doesn't mean he gets it all right, but I hear it all the time. Saturn is Satan. Satan is Saturn. No, it isn't. It's two different freaking things. Though it could be said that Saturn is like the big thing. It is the system. And if you look at the symbols, anything that is important, you will see a lot. You will see the symbols of a lot. Saturn Kronos has to do with time and limitation. And time is like one of the biggest things that keeps us pinned here. Because it keeps linear time, keeps your focus, your consciousness out of the now where she's at, and it keeps you looking at the past and looking at the future and looking at all this stuff. It's connected to the black cube of Saturn, which I think is reminiscent of like an ancient, like quantum computer cabinet, kind of like a D-Wave cabinet or something. Same with the monoliths from 2001 Space Odyssey and stuff like that. So it just so happens in geometric terms, Saturn has this hexagonal storm at the top of it at the North Pole. Well, a hexagon, if you break that up into lines, makes the shape of a three-dimensional cube. So that is the box. When they say think outside the box, that's the box. Saturn is the closest thing that you will have to what the matrix system is. The thing that you entered that's all about limitations in time. And why is time associated? Why is it overlapping death, the death card? What is it? I'm getting my scientific things messed up. It's not second law of thermodynamics. Conservation of energy, something about in a closed system. Like the longer something goes on, the more it increases entropy. It breaks down. That's why you have cycles. That's why things are breaking down. That's the same thing as death. You're in the place of death. In the place of life, everything goes on and on and on. In the place of death, as soon as you enter the place of death, you start breaking down. You start dying the day you're born. Everything is going to die. Everything is going to rust. Everything is going to break down because of entropy in time in this place. That is one of the biggest things. It is the system, and it's the system that the major Abrahamic religions worship. So Christianity, they mask it a little bit better, but you know, in Islam, go over there to Mecca, they got a big old black freaking cube that everyone freaking runs around like ants. And sitting right next to it now is a giant monster freaking hotel that looks like a giant freaking throne to me. That's also a giant clock tower. So you got the black cube and you got the freaking clock and you got a big seat. The whole thing looks like a giant freaking thing. Then you got the other religion, the ones that like to Google you. If you check Google Trends, you know, those guys, they take the black cube and strap it to their freaking forehead. I mean, they're not hiding any of this stuff. It is what it is. How does it fall into Christianity? Like I said, you know, Christianity that you know today is not Gnostic Jesus stuff. It's Judeo-Christianity. They took one religion's book and slapped it on the other stuff and mixed it all together. So that is the big system. That is the Saturnian system. And of course, in my chart, my sun, which is Pisces and divine masculine and connected to her, perfectly squares Saturn, which means we rub each other raw. It was just written in the freaking books. Okay, so consider Saturn the main thing. That is the box. Think outside the box. Okay, so if that's the biggest thing, then the next biggest thing, which is a lot more evident in this card, is the Hierophant. So this would be like the archons, the rulers, authority. Like you see here, follow our book, follow our rules, or I got this freaking whip here, you better bow down. And you got the masculine painted as the devil. Now we know why that is. And then you got the moon girl who's green, which you find out later is the Empress Sophia in this deck. You know, because what did we discover recently? It's like, yeah, that's part of the thing religion did, is they turned both, in one way or the other, they turned the revelation of the divine masculine and the divine feminine into devil characters. They turned her into the devil in the Garden of Eden story, the serpent, and then, yeah, well, we're getting deep there. But, you know, Phanes, Lucifer, all that stuff has nothing to do with the devil. But they made sure, because they don't want you activating your divine masculine or your divine feminine. So they're like, nope, these are the devil. Be scared of them. But so within the whole black cube thing, these are the rulers, the people making the rules, the people that are enforcing the laws. They're the smaller systems controlling things, telling you what you can and cannot do, what you can and cannot say, what you can and cannot think, what you can and cannot believe. And it's like, why did they get so, what is so wrong with you just having your own thoughts? But if you think certain thoughts, they're all over your ass. So that's the second thing. And then the last, smallest one actually is the devil. Oh, hey, what's he sitting on? What's that? Oh, it's a black cube that they're freaking... And then you got a cube up here that is Xing out the spiral. And just so we're absolutely freaking clear about this and showing... Because there is cross connects between both decks, which also shows that they are related. You know, look at his hands. So the devil and the Hierophant in the other one... You know, in this one, he's got, you know, the key lock. And this one, he's got the two keys. And what did Jesus say in Nag Hammadi? He said, the Pharisees and the scholars have taken the keys of knowledge and hidden them. They have not entered, nor have they allowed anyone else to enter. As for you, be as shrewd as snakes and innocent as doves. Something like that. It's like, yeah, they hid the keys to knowledge, right? But the devil is not actually your main, well, it is and it isn't. And it can be colored and framed in whatever way you believe. So Christians are going to see like the traditional devil. And they typically serve him because they're going to be repeating the same program scripts over and over again. You're deceived. If you don't believe what I am, you're deceived. Okay. But the devil is you. It is, remember I said, you know, one of the functions in here is everything mirrors things back. What you hold to be true, but also inverted negative reflections. So when you encounter your negative inverted reflection and you are emanating source light, which the Christ light, then what pushes back at you is the inverted reflection of that. The devil is always you. The devil is always the manifestation of the things that you hold to be true, the things that you believe that are getting in your way, because authority distorted your knowledge within this Saturnian system so that you create your own devils. And I've gone through so many stages over the years of like who the bad guys are and realized it's the same as the good guys. Everything, there is nothing external. There is no external agency. It all emanates from within you, good and bad. That means you have the power to control it. You just don't understand. Oh, don't I? Because I did the Christian thing a long ass freaking time ago. And I believed in all that crap that they feed you about angels and demons till I figured out that it was all internal. It was all freaking internal. And I shut it off. And it disappeared. I didn't encounter it anymore, and nobody came to me about it anymore. Unless someone's trying to like flex on me and say, I need to get back in the box. I'm not getting back in the box. You get out of the box. Explain your beliefs. Walk it through me. Walk me through what you believe without you telling me that I have to listen to them. Because what I said earlier about, can you walk me through it structurally? What it is you believe. Most people cannot without deferring to authority. And sometimes it doesn't even freaking make sense. Like religious people, well, this is the word of God. Why do you think that? All they had to do was tell you that. There's like a million different versions of it. There's the author's names. Like, what are you talking about? That's like, why is it so easy to trick you? Why is it so simple? And if that's the good guys team, why are you so miserable? Why are you so angry? Why do you want to fight with everybody? Why aren't you glowing with joy and love? Or why aren't you talking about being in love with, Lumen and things like that? Instead, you're still in the box. You're still being shown when you see light, you treat it like its adversary. And then you tell that light, you're deceived. It's like, no, you're in the box. And when you're in the box, everything is reversed and inverted. You're not seeing clearly. By their fruits you shall know them. That's the reason why he came up with that, because it's pretty much fail-safe. When people are happy, when people are talking about good things and they're talking about love and making music about love and divine things and helping people, and they're not just like, look at these freaking people. We need to get together and hate these people. Like, they're not doing that, but you still think like I'm on the bad side? Like, can you make that make sense? Other than deferring to authority, because somebody told you that these people are your enemy. They're bad. And you're like, okay. Thanks for thinking for me, because thinking's hard, and I would rather someone else do it than me. I know sometimes I'm pushing buttons, but sometimes that's what it takes, because I want you to think. The first person that you have to argue with is your own mind. Your own mind. I could probably go on with this forever, because like everything today was just kind of like resorting everything. And not ready to talk about anything too specific, but in terms of this Chiron thing, it's like, oh, Chiron's the key to everything. And then you find out, like, hey, what's the symbol of Chiron? Oh, it's a key. It's like, holy crap, like the system, the game that you're in just made it freaking obvious. The wounded healer. Well, the story of Chiron. And then, like I said, she kept saying in my head, Chiron, pay attention to Chiron. Not saying why, because she doesn't do my homework for me. But as soon as Mars conjuncted Chiron, like, I've been out of commission for a couple of days. Like, I felt like crap. Like all the negative charge was discharging from my body. It was just horrible. And today's the first day I kind of felt like myself again. But there's still things that we talked about where all of a sudden the system, the astrology, is telling a very, very particular story. And the full moon at the end of the month is part of it. And then when I start, what was the name of that app? think it's called time passages. I found, like, I actually paid for, because I would be using it that much, but there's a ton of stuff even if you're not paying for it. It's like a really good astrology app. So I could like pull like, what's the chart going to look like on this particular day and do all sorts of kind of stuff. But knowing the signs, knowing the degrees, it's even got the Sabian symbols in there that adds even more layers to it. And the way that it's panning out with where Chiron's going to be, especially in terms of my chart, where Saturn's going to be, especially in terms of my chart. I can't do it off the top of my head. I'll have to come back to that. But Chiron is going to be in 0 degrees Taurus. And then 2 days after that, while it's still in 0 degrees Taurus, that's the summer solstice. And when that happens, I think something, what was it? Has to do with 13. There's a lot of 13 stuff with my chart. And Saturn being at 13 degrees and me being at, like, all this stuff is lining up. And then when you stack all the symbols together and then you look at the Sabian symbols too, and like it's basically telling the story of a reset of the second house, which my Chiron's in my second house. So it's basically how the world deals with me. It's where all the struggle comes from. It's like total reset of support. It's like, okay, but I've already got the wound. So the wound of Chiron in the story was basically like Hercules or Heracles, depending on how you pronounce it, accidentally shoots him with an arrow dipped in the blood of the Hydra, which is super poisonous, but Chiron is immortal. So he just ends up in unbearable pain. They also showed you a variation of this in Lord of the Rings when Frodo got stabbed by the Morgul blade. And then by the end of the third movie, he's like, this doesn't heal. He can't go back to the way things were. Same thing with me. You've just seen too much. You've known too much. Most of the part of the hero's journey was systemically disconnecting you from that black cube Saturn system. So that right there, once you unplug from that, and Jesus warned you about this, and even in the Bible, once you're unplugged from the Saturn cube system, it ain't going to support you anymore. So all that stuff freaking makes sense. So if the astrology is like, okay, you're going to have a total reboot of this, the only way for that to happen is to move garments. Change garments. What is the garment? Garment is world. World is not planet. World is not Earth. World is your environment of experience with you at the center of it. That's why they call it a worldview, worldview lens. It is your subjective game, which is partially copied from being inside the larger bubble of the Saturnian system. And then the authorities, the Hierophant, taught you how everything was. That's how it copied down, and then it copied down to your subjective bubble, and that's what you believe. So stage 1 of the hero's journey is they disconnect you from the Saturn system. Stage 2, they start disconnecting you from authority and agreements with authority. In stage 3, you basically execute and eliminate your devil, your Satan, your negative mirror. It's a 3-step process. And then getting everything to replace it, the 4 queens, activate, getting your Christ flame activated, learning all the flame tongue, things like that. The next thing is you now aware of being the architect. You are the center of the projection of your bubble. You need to project a new bubble because this one is broken. Too much entropy, everything's breaking down. And the system that you're currently looking at was copied from the higher levels is not set to support you, which means you have to move. You have to go to another spot. You have to get a new garment, a new world, a new projection. Your consciousness has to move from this place. And all the astrological data is pointing around summer solstice. That's another video when I can sort that out and organize it and actually show my receipts instead of just pulling it out of my butt. Like I said, I got overloaded with catch-up work today. So we will come back to that, but I'll let you know that we're back online. Things are moving, and it's still, that's the big thing, is just the stuff that we covered in this video. Like, go back and watch it again. The things that she was telling me to challenge you with. It's like, can you explain what it is in your head that if you're rejecting my system, which it doesn't have to look exactly the same, but I'm not talking about stories anymore. I'm not talking about narratives. I'm talking about structure. The structure of how things work. If you're rejecting it, then that must mean that you have a different story that makes more technical sense. And if so, what is it? Or when you examine it, is it just, no, it's just what authority told me and I just got used to it? That's the biggest thing. Those three things, those are the things that you're supposed to disconnect from. The box, the cube, the authorities, and your own inverted negative reflection. Okay, well, my back's getting sore here, so I'm going to wrap this up. We will come back. We'll have plenty of material to work with here. So if you want to get in touch with us, get any of the new Luminite. Yeah, we got a bunch of them. I got all these ones. I got a box up that is finished. The ways you can do that through our Etsy store, clumencreations.etsy.com. The links to the Etsy store, the free music channel, all the stuff is in the description box below. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, leave a comment. If you got a better system that makes more sense, then let's hear it. I'm all for it. But other than that, Khalith and Lumen, see you next time.
They say the world's on fire again. Turn on the screen, let the fear begin. Whispers of war, whispers of blame. But don't you see, it's all a game. They're painting shadows on your wall, keeping you small, making you crawl. But close your eyes, feel what's real. Love's the only thing they cannot steal. It's all smoke and mirrors, a grand disguise, keeping you lost in a house of lies. Look past the stories, let them fade. The truth is love, we've got it made.